Welcome to the Decent People podcast, a production of Decentral Media, where we're committed to telling the stories of the founders, builders, and visionaries who are creating a new decentralized economy and internet experience. You guys know it as Web3 or blockchain, and we're going to bring you the smartest and most interesting people in the space for intimate conversations that reveal their background, how they got into crypto in the first place, and what they're doing today to make a decentralized future a reality. Thanks so much for joining us. Make sure to check out our site at decentral.io. Now, to the show.
Welcome back to another episode of the Decent People podcast with Decentral Media. I'm your host, Stephen Ladden. This week, we're with Adam Levine, known as Adamtastic. He's a creative director and digital artist. Adamtastic, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Yeah,
sure,
this is pretty awesome.
Thing. Yeah. You recently were at was it NFT NYC just earlier this week, or was that last week, or
that was this past week? Yep.
And was that something, just out of curiosity, was that something you planned to do? Like, had it in your sights? Were you asked? How did it all come about?
For NFT NYC, so this is the second time that I'm going. I went last year, even though last year wasn't a full year ago. I live in New Jersey, so I'm not that far. Don't have a very good excuse not to make it. But honestly, I can't think of a reason not to go. It is, it's a great experience to just, as far as a centralized location for everybody from, crypto art to crypto investing and all the things that come along with all that. It just, and artists, it's just, there's so much that converges in 1 week, in one space, that it makes so much sense, in my opinion, to be there. And like I said, living close, it made even more sense. Last year and this year, I also had opportunity to be a speaker. So it was not last minute that I went to this thing. Very much planned out. Also, I've got a wife and a kid, so planning is always a thing. So this time around, I was fortunate that I was on a couple of panels. One for NFT NYC, like the actual, I guess, proper event, right, that takes place, and then was another one for an organization called Change DAO, and I was on a panel there as well. And both of them were related to the same topic, which I came wanting to talk about this year, which was NFTs and charity.
Interesting. And is that sort of, I guess, how did you, is that something close and personal to you? How did that become the thing that you wanted to talk about specifically?
I've been in the crypto NFT space since the end of 2020, beginning of 2021 is when I sort of like jumped into all this. And I saw pretty early on an opportunity to raise funds for people, for organizations. There's, it's no secret, there's a ton of money in this space. And, obviously one of my goals was to feed my family. But another one was, what could I do to have an impact more so than I've been able to have in the past? Like I've personally, I've donated to different charities and things over the years, but I've never felt like, I'm in a position that was able to financially support people to a degree that I would have liked to. And NFTs have changed that. I've partnered with different organizations like Charity Water and Project Red, and some other organizations. And we, through NFTs, just through the art alone that I've been making, this year I've raised almost $100,000. And I don't say that, to brag. I say that because I'm just an individual, right? So if you can build a community and you can build trust, then you can also do good, because those are the things that are required in order to have any kind of like reach with impact. So yeah, when I got into the space, I was very aware of wanting to have clear intentions on what I wanted to get out of it. It's been fun to do this because, as with anything in life, one opportunity opens up a door for another, and at the very least, the more you talk about this stuff, the more people get those ideas and, can do this stuff on their own. Because it's not hard, once you're in the ecosystem, right? And I don't judge anyone who doesn't do what I'm doing differently. I just look at it like, if you're able to, it's a really easy thing to do, especially in with the blockchain, right? Because with crypto, you can, send money instantly to an organization if they accept it, and there's zero red tape, and it goes, and you can see transparently where it's going, what wallet it's going to, and as long as you have trust with the people on the other side, then the impact can be really, really quick. I worked earlier this year when the Russia, Ukraine war started. There were a handful of us artists who've been in the space for over a year. We just, started talking on Twitter. Andrew Wang was, at the top of it, saying like, what can we do? And within 24 hours, we had collected a whole bunch of different artists. It was like 50 artists, 57 artists. We all either created new pieces or donated new pieces. Like, I reached out to my friend Rovi Vora, and I said, I want to be a part of this. Like, I just saw it happening, and he said, if you can give us a piece in like 30 minutes, you're in. And I was like, dropped everything, and I made a piece.
Wow.
Right. So
yeah.
And this is the speed though. Like, and they were, other people were working on it for like, the night, but that's all it was. Like the back end, the code, all of it, the smart contract, everybody lent their time and talent for this. And then we deployed, and in, I think it was 30 seconds, we raised $1 million. And
wow.
Yeah. And it really
That's
showed you,
insane.
like, it was amazing. It was such an amazing moment, the way it worked, because, like I said, it was a whole bunch of top artists in the space. And the reason it worked is because we all put our reputations on the line, right? Like, if this wasn't going to work, that was going to look bad for a lot of people. We're going to fail,
Sure.
So, so we had all been spending time building community and building trust. So it was sort of like a perfect storm moment that we saw an opportunity. We took it. We didn't know it was going to sell that fast, like that. That was a dream, right? That was, we were all trying to get one, and we couldn't get one. Like, we had to go on secondary. So, and that's fine. So, but it went really well, and every artist was given the opportunity to take all their royalties and put it right back into the contract. Or some of the artists were from the afflicted area, right? And so, like, they needed funds. So, like, some artists actually were able to take funds, which was great. But a majority of us just put it right back into a shared wallet. Even the royalties, anything that we made on royalties went right back into the wallet. And we didn't immediately donate it. We waited a little bit because we were vetting. Like, we had people on the ground there. We had, contacts. We were trying to make sure it was going to go to the right places. And it was all for humanitarian aid. And so after a little bit of time, we made a donation, or a handful, because we saw different organizations that we could give it to. But, again, and every time we did, it was very transparent. This is who's getting what. This is the wallet. This is where you can go to look for it. All the benefits of Web3. So it was a really awesome use case, and that's what we kind of hoped it would be for other people to look at as what's possible when you don't have to, go through red tape.
What's really fascinating, I guess, maybe just to back up, how did you get into the space initially? Like, was art always something that you wanted to pursue? Was that the passion from the get-go, being a kid, or?
No, art has always been a passion of mine. So from childhood on, I've wanted to pursue art in some way or another, and I wound up going to school for animation, and wanting to pursue it that way. And when I got a little older, and through a lot of the courses and all that, it was really, at the end, I found storytelling was more my thing. and I deeply loved animation, but I also, and I've always been illustrating and painting. I've been in some gallery shows over the years and like just more traditional side of art. But I've also been doing digital art when people are saying like, oh, digital art is a thing. And I'm like, yeah, digital art's been a thing for a very long time, just because it's attached to NFTs. Like it's nothing new. But I do remember going into galleries and being told, it has to be physical. Like you can't just make this digitally. So, it's cool to finally see that, taking shape and getting respect as art, because that's what it is. Art is art, in whatever medium you make it in. But no, I've been doing this my whole life, but professionally. Um, I was for the last 15 or so years, I was creative director for more like commercial work. As far as getting into this stuff, that was the end of 2020 when I saw my friend Brian Brinkman was making some art, and it looked cool, and he had some posts up on Instagram, and he had some like words attached to it that I didn't understand, with fungible and this and that. There was all these confusing words and crypto stuff, and I was not into any crypto. I'm aware of it. I knew about Bitcoin, but I didn't know anything else. And I said to him, what is this? I like what you're doing. It looks cool. And I'm super confused. Can you tell me? And he was super generous with his time. We spent many, many late nights. I was feverishly taking notes. Like I have tons of pages of goofy notes about, I mean, this is before a lot of the platforms, like were even a thing, so
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, he helped me immensely, like figuring out what a wallet is, how to get a wallet, how to set up, what a seed phrase, all this stuff. And I had never been so intrigued and excited by something so early that I felt I just dove right in. And this is before the Beeple sale, and this is before, really before it like blew up. I just looked at it like, this is really cool, and this is going to be a thing. And he had that same thought, but like not that this is going to be a thing, but this is really cool. He had that thought like way like early on in 2020, which that would have
Sure.
been even more cool. But no, I was very appreciative of that, and honestly, as a result of that, um, I last year especially, but I still now I try to onboard people as much as I can, because I just think that it makes sense. I think it's worth it if you're interested. I've had hundreds of calls now with artists or people who are not in art at all, who are just curious about NFTs. Like I was, especially last year, constantly on the phone, onboarding people, or at least giving them like an introduction. Um, Not everybody did anything with it, but like a few of them who did went on to do really well, and I'm really proud of them. So, yeah, it's a really cool space. But that was how I got in. I had nothing to do with any of that stuff, and I was like, the ability to make art and make a living maybe from it, like that sounds like a dream. So yeah.
Yeah. That's super cool. And was there a point at which you realized that the ability to make art and make a living at it for you kind of manifested and transformed that desire perhaps into, or gave you the real world feedback, reassurance, motivation that, hey, this is actually something tangible, not just something that I hope can happen?
Um, last summer, um, last summer I was working full time and doing NFTs in every waking minute, and making art that any moment that I wasn't doing other stuff. Um, for most of from the first half of last year, I was doing full time job, then 9 to 5, 5 to 9 was family, and 9 to 2 a.m. was art and NFTs. And um, mid year, in June or July, I guess, of last year, I was laid off. They could not keep me any longer. It was, they kept me through the pandemic or through the height of it, and then they tried to keep me longer, and they couldn't. But at the same time, my goal was to try to do this full time by the end of the year. They just accelerated the timeline, and I had already been working on a big collection, and thankfully things went really well. And I went full time NFTs and just kind of just went for it. Thankfully, people liked what I was doing, So yeah, I mean, but it's a constant grind. It doesn't really change. It's not, I know very few people who are in this who are just on easy street. Like there's some that are doing really well, and I'm really happy for them. But it's still, you know, you still want to work really hard at it. You still want to, make sure what you're doing is, your best work, or at least you're trying hard to connect with people and, have conversations like this. But I honestly, like, this is part of what I've enjoyed most about this whole space is I get to make art and I get to connect with so many people that I never would have imagined. Like NFTs have just opened so many doors for me and for so many people.
Sure. And both in a collaborative sense, and also I think because of those doors that are being opened, it kind of shows you the space too of what the power of crypto and decentralization and all of those things. To your point, if this is just a microcosm of what that power could be, then it's a very different future that we're looking at, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It does look like that's look, yeah, I know overall the market is down right now, but if you look outside of the crypto world, everything is down. The world is kind of down right now. So I think it's obviously it's all related. So that's why I don't look at that and get too nervous, because it's all connected.
Absolutely. In terms of that connectivity, is there another level at which digital art will continue to evolve? Is there, with your own art, a path or something that you have in the works to continue on a particular trajectory? Like what can we, I guess, expect to see, or what do you think we can expect to see both in the future of art in general and for your art specifically?
Look, art as a thing, art's not going away, because art is expression. That's a fundamental human reaction to the environment around you, and that's not going to change. Obviously, we have new tools that are coming out, like AI. There's some amazing programs that are out there that are now going to challenge what art is and how art is made. But I also don't think that that's a bad thing. I think that I think that we're going to start to see more acceptance eventually in the art world for digital art and the crossover between the two. I mean, maybe what I just like to hope is that that's going to happen, because we have an opportunity right now as a community of digital artists to say to the world that, and this is why I hesitate to just call myself an NFT artist, right? Is because it's art. We're all artists, and the more we talk about it, the more that makes sense to me that all of these are just different mediums. I mean, you look at what photography went through when it first came out, that anyone can do it, anyone can be a photographer, but there's a line there. Like, we've now seen that, yes, just because anyone can do it doesn't necessarily mean it's art, but also art is subjective, because, art is everything and nothing at the same time. It's
right.
what emotion do you feel when you look at it? Is there an emotional response? I'm not going to be, defining art, because it really can't and shouldn't be done. But I do think that the future of all of this is bright. I'm optimistic about it. I think that in time we'll get over the hump of NFTs. It'll just be the way you pay for digital art, right? It'll just be the mechanism, because NFTs also, like, NFTs as a thing in the mainstream, it's not. It doesn't have like a good reputation, which is unfortunate. But because we are early, and I know, every time someone says that, it's a little cringy, but it's true. I mean, we weren't talking about like, the internet with dial up and talking about it like it was a thing. It's just the internet, So I think NFTs, it's just the technology. We all know that. So I'm optimistic that as a way of storing value and staking ownership over something, I think it's going to only progress from here.
And in terms of your art specifically, what plans, what can we expect from Adamtastic as the years and months continue and your ideas and portfolio continues to grow and evolve? What's on the horizon there?
I'm curating a show coming up in July for the First Dibs platform. I'm excited about that. So I look forward to it, but I also look forward to curating other shows in the future. There's a project I've been working on for about 5 months. I can't talk too much about it, but that's a thing,
Sure.
Like there's any number of there's like 4 things at once that I'm kind of working on. Some of them are collaborative and some of them are just just more one-of-ones. But I also, I see an opportunity to try to bring more art to more people. And so that's what I'm going to try to do. But I also see a lot of value in lifting others up. So I'm going to continue to preach that. It's a very simple, easy thing to do. If you see something you like, retweet it. It's the most powerful tool, I think, maybe ever. The retweet. But just in general, the big takeaway from the last almost year and a half now is that when one person is winning, it doesn't mean that someone's losing as a result. Like there's enough
Totally.
of everything in any way for everybody. So if you have any kind of platform, use it for good, help bring people up whenever possible. And so as far as me and my art, I mean, I pour myself into everything that I do, and I try really hard to, bring out emotions, and more often than not, I try, to spread positivity. But that's what I'm going to keep doing.
Love it. And in terms of that positivity and spreading positivity and inspiring people through your art, does that come from a place internally where like, hey, this is the message that I need to share, and then it's channeled through your pieces? Or is that just a companion to perhaps other motivations that really influence you?
Early on, it's just something that I've wanted to always do, and I've done in the past, but sort of like finding a way to do it at scale has been fun. I currently I don't have millions of followers, but the only reason that I think it would be fun to have that is because I could use that platform for good. Like I could say, hey, look at this person. I think their stuff's amazing. And then like a bunch of people could actually look at that person, and try to help out. So, no, I mean, the positivity, I don't think that there's enough in the world, let alone in the space that we're in. I think that there's some of it. I think, I've been very fortunate to have made friends in the space that are positive, that are good people that I've had the pleasure of knowing now for a while. But I also just think that if you want to see something done differently, then you got to do it.
Would you say then that the idea of preaching positivity, putting that into the art somehow, all of that in this space is unfortunately not the norm, but it could be the norm?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that it'll ever become the norm. It's a space that whenever there's a lot of money, there's greed, there's selfishness, and I'm not blind to that. I'm not, ignorant to that. But I think that there's also good people here, and I think it's worth trying. I hesitate to say that the whole space is not like it, because there's good people. I've met those people. But I think what's the harm in trying to make it a better place instead of letting it just be status quo, whatever it is, like when it can be better, you know? Right now, it's not as inclusive as it says it is. Like we've all kind of figured that, but seeing that is a different thing. Looking back on 2021, there were reports that came out that talked about how many women sold NFTs versus men, and it was an abysmal amount. I mean, it was single digit percentages. Like
Wow.
it was disgusting. But it's also very, you know, the women aren't surprised, right? Like the women are like,
Right.
yeah, no kidding. This is what we've felt, you know. I didn't think it was as bad as that, but you know, having conversations like that or this are helpful because then we can say, okay, yeah, you know, people said they wanted to spotlight women, do it, you know, because that's the only way that changes is support them, spotlight them, buy their art, help them wherever you can. And that also goes for everybody else. There's a lot of dudes that look like me in this space, right? And there's also a lot of dudes that look like me that don't really think anything else, right? Like they're just here operating maybe to make a bag, maybe not, maybe whatever. But like the more people who are in the space who have an awareness that the space is is biased because humans, right? Like we came into the space, it should be more decentralized. It's becoming less decentralized. We came in with, you know, there were a lot of ideals and promises and that, and it sounded really good and potentially utopian, but the reality very quickly was that it's all based on just current societal, you know, actions. And so in order for anything to actually change, we have to push for that.
With the unknowns of crypto, Web3, future of digital art, is because the landscape is so fertile, does that serve as both an advantage and a disadvantage to this idea of upholding a decentralized system?
Yeah, of course it does, right? I mean, it's both an ability to make it what you want, but also we still have the confines of what society is. But it's we have the ability because it is new ground. I think we have the ability to change that. I think that it's going to take a lot of work and difficult conversations and frankly speaking a lot of listening and not talking, you know, like you look like me, you should probably start listening instead. So and I urge people also to get out of their comfort zones, go into spaces and rooms that you shouldn't talk, and then don't talk, and then just listen, because you're going to learn a lot of stuff. Um, uh, you know, that's something that I've done for a long time now, and every time I do, I learn new shit. I think all too often, you know, people come in with a preconceived notion and don't take the time to listen to the people around them, especially when those people are different from you and being vocal. Like take a minute. The gold rush part, honestly, I think it's kind of over. I think the gold rush happened, and now what we're left with is interesting because I think it was very hard to build that desired, you know, more positive, inclusive, decentralized place during that gold rush. I think most of those people are not the people who want to build like that. So
Right.
now that that's kind of over, I look around and see who's left. And I thankfully see a lot of the same faces that I saw when I came in. And then I don't see the people who came in right after. And I get it. But now we have an opportunity to continue to protect the space and make it what we want it to be, because we do have an opportunity to do that. You know, it's not for everybody. You know, a lot of people aren't going to do it, but because I mean, this might be the better time to do that because all the eyes are not on us anymore, and
Mm.
now it's on us to take a step back, look around, and take stock of what we've got and what we collectively want to see happen, because I don't think the space is going away. I think that this is the kind of thing that we had our big pop. We knew it was a bubble. We knew it was a gold rush. We knew it was going to go away, but the space isn't going away. I went to NFT NYC, and I know some of that is, carryover money from the good times, but also a lot of the NFT craze started with artists, and then it went into this other crazy stuff. And now, when the dust is settling, a lot of the artists are still here. And so, and there's also a lot of amazing collectors who also looked at this like, we came here for the art and not, for the BS. And so, it's been said a lot of times, but I can see it when things are down is when it's time to build and, recalibrate, because I don't think that this is going away. And I think that's because there's too many people here who are emotionally invested in wanting this to survive and to thrive. So I think it'll be okay.
Hopefully the positivity will prevail.
I think the best way for someone to kind of approach just any social media or online, like, I hesitate to say social media, but like social, gathering, like or movement, is to realize that the sooner you understand that the follower count, the numbers, all of those are people, aside from obviously bots and bullshit, but most of it,
Yeah.
most of it is real people. And once you know that, once you really know that and understand that, and not worry about a number, like we've been told to worry about numbers and follower counts and the bullshit, those are people, right? And so if you care less about a number and more about that they're people, you'll understand that you can connect better and deeper with those people, right? Because then it doesn't matter. You have 10,000 followers. If only 10 of them care, I'd rather have the 10 followers who give a shit, connect on a deeper level, understand that that's who's on the other side of the screen.
Well, Adam, this has been a phenomenal chat. Really appreciate you taking the time. Really, really good stuff, and love the uplifting positive message that you're trying to spread, and or that you do spread, and the positive outlook that provides to just the industry and the world at large. So thank you again for coming aboard. This has been another episode of the Decent People Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Ladden. Adamtastic, Adam Levine, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Stephen. It was great.